This is Mac OS Ken.
KeyBanc ups its Apple target, the Mac grows as PCs slow, and the rapid retreat of a rapid security response. It is Wednesday, the 12th of July, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code MacOSKen50 at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 for 50% off. This show is also sponsored by Issue, the all-in-one platform to create and distribute beautiful digital content. There's probably nothing wrong with the stuff you're putting out already, but if you feel like it could be more dynamic, or if you're spending a lot of time tweaking what you're making for various platforms, Issue can help. Issue helps you put new life into static content by transforming your catalogs, magazines, sales pitches, and other digital stuff from flat PDFs into interactive posts and publications for your audiences worldwide. That's an email, social sites, embedded on your site. Whether you're out there by yourself or working with a team, Issue helps you create once and share everywhere. Get started with Issue today for free, or sign up for an annual premium account and get 50% off when you go to issue.com/podcast and use promo code MacOSKen. That's ISSUU.com/podcast and use promo code MacOSKen at checkout for your free starter account or 50% off an annual premium account. That's issue.com/podcast with promo code MacOSKen. Good news for Apple outweighs the bad. That is according to KeyBanc capital markets analyst Brandon Nispel. He does say, though, that there is bad news out there. Or a good news, bad news combo. Let's start with that. A piece from Barron's has proprietary data from KeyBanc showing a sequential rise in consumer spending with Apple. According to the report, Nispel detailed how indexed spending on Apple transactions of $400 or more jumped 23% month-over-month in June. Quarter-over-quarter, though, things don't look that good. The same data shows consumer spending with Apple down 15% in the second quarter versus the first, a bigger decline than the usual 9% drop. And it doesn't get better this quarter in his estimation. Quoting his note, overall, our data is telling us that we should expect below average growth in the third quarter of 2023. While our Apple Direct channel data is showing softness, we also believe domestic iPhone sales are being pressured from slowing U.S. carrier activity and lower upgrade rates. And yet, the good news outweighs the bad in KeyBanc's estimation. Because, new hardware. And it's Apple. Quoting the analyst again, we believe the bull case for the stock, with excitement around new products and investors reaching for safety, is resulting in an elevated multiple. And he runs with the bulls. Nispel and friends maintain their overweight rating on Apple shares. They used Tuesday's note to raise their 12-month price target on the shares from $180 to $200. While KeyBanc notes a slowdown in sales, without worrying about it, both IDC and Canalys show Mac sales as up in the June quarter. Apple Must has had a look at numbers from both firms, both of which show growth for Mac shipments and market share amid a sea of competitor declines. I saw a headline that said HP and Apple were bright spots in an otherwise disappointing second quarter. Putting HP in there is kind of funny to me. Both Canalys and IDC show that company sales declining, though only a tiny bit. Canalys saw them down 0.4% for the second quarter of 2023 versus the same quarter a year earlier, so practically flat. Similarly, IDC saw HP shipments down only 0.8%. On Apple, the two firms are wildly divergent. IDC estimates Apple's Q2 23 shipments at 5.3 million units for year-on-year growth of 10.3%. Maybe they missed a pallet. Maybe Canalys counted one twice. Whatever the case, that latter firm had Apple shipping 6.8 million units in the second quarter, indicating annual growth of 50.9%. Anyway, they both counted appreciable growth for the Mac and no growth for any other computer maker. That includes the big gray blob of others. China is turning into a hotbed of retail innovation for Apple. A couple of weeks ago, we heard tell of a successful-sounding e-commerce live stream play from the Cupertino company. Now a piece from TechCrunch says Apple has launched an online store on the Chinese communications app WeChat. The piece says the company has launched the store to the app via WeChat's mini programs, small-sized apps hosted on WeChat that feature e-commerce, financial services, and transportation offerings. The piece says this isn't the first time Apple has done an online store in another online store in China. According to TechCrunch, Apple has a sort of sub-store on China's Tmall e-commerce platform. With that, the new move could be seen as setting up something of a competition. Tmall is owned by Alibaba, while WeChat is owned by Alibaba competitor Tencent. For being an app inside an app, the WeChat store sounds fully stocked. The TechCrunch piece says Apple products on offer include iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and the Mac. From rapid response to whack-a-mole, iOS 16.5.1a came and went over about a 24-hour period. I told you Tuesday of Apple's rapid security response updates for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. They were issued to plug a vulnerability in WebKit that was reportedly under active exploit. They brought with them a problem, though. Not long after installation, a piece from Ars Technica says, users began having issues accessing certain websites. Not a big deal. They weren't huge sites. The piece has Mac rumors saying they were just tiny properties like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Zoom. Yeah, kind of a big deal. Apple has acknowledged the issue and pulled the updates. It plans to replace the A versions with B versions soon. Hopefully that B stands for better. If you're wondering what people who have already installed the updates are supposed to do, turns out it's pretty easy to undo. You can find steps to step backwards in Apple's support doc on its site. Tuesday proved a big day for developer betas. A few pieces from Mac rumors say Apple seeded the third betas of iOS 17 and iPadOS 17 to dev types yesterday, along with the third developer beta of macOS 14, Sonoma. Additionally, a couple of pieces from Apple Insider say developers also got access to a third beta of tvOS 17 and the next significant firmware for Apple's Studio display. Then there's that confusing mess to maybe stick in your ears, eventually. The piece from 9to5Mac says Apple on Tuesday released new firmware for Beats Studio Buds, as well as developer beta firmware for AirPods, AirPods Pro, and AirPods Max. If you want to install the firmware for the Beats Studio Buds, you can't really. You just kind of have to let it happen. 9to5Mac says charging the devices while they're relatively close to your iPhone can make it happen more quickly, but you really can't control it. As for the developer betas, it's unclear what they include exactly, though the site has at least one guess. 9to5Mac says the new firmware version likely includes updates to upcoming features like conversation awareness. Other features expected for AirPods Pro include adaptive audio, which is sort of a hybrid of transparency mode and active noise cancellation, as well as the ability to mute or unmute a phone call through the earphones. More news in a moment, but first a word from Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit and sponsor of today's show. Happened again the other day. A few folks who have had Factor as a sponsor on their shows started chatting about it, not as part of a sponsorship message, just off mic, shooting the breeze. One said his kid went from being disappointed that he didn't get to prep the meal to talking about how delicious it was in about 4 minutes. Another said Factor meals are so freaking convenient and tasty that they are definitely a winner. Then there's the one who said now that he has found Factor, he's never going back to making his own lunch every day. I say they're right. The tastes are amazing and couldn't be easier. Just 10 minutes in the oven or 2 minutes in the microwave for great meals like the creamy Parmesan chicken from the keto menu and the barbecue pork sloppy joe from the calorie counter side. No prep, no cleanup, never frozen, always fresh, and truly delicious. Give Factor a try. Head to factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 and use code MacOSKen50 to get 50% off. That's code MacOSKen50 at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 to get 50% off. Taste what has made Factor America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code MacOSKen50 for 50% off at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50. Apple TV Plus spent Tuesday teasing/promoting a couple of series coming soon. A piece from Apple Insider says the Cupertino streamer finally has a launch date for its docuseries about supermodels. Called The Supermodels. I say it finally has a release date, not because I've been waiting for it, but because it has been a long time coming. The series was commissioned nearly 3 years ago. Focusing on Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, and Christy Turlington, Apple TV Plus says the series travels back to the 1980s when 4 women from different corners of the world united in New York. Already forces in their own right, the gravitas that they achieved by coming together transcended the industry itself. Today, the blurb continues, the 4 supermodels remain on the front lines of culture through activism, philanthropy, and business prowess. As the fashion industry continues to redefine itself and women's roles within it, this is the ultimate story of power and how 4 women came together to claim it, paving the way for those who follow. The 4-part series hits Apple TV Plus on Wednesday, the 20th of September. And finally today, for something perhaps a bit more challenging, a piece from Cult of Mac has offered a first look at the upcoming limited series, The Changeling. Based on the novel of the same name by Victor Laval, Apple TV Plus says the show is a fairy tale for grown-ups, a horror story, a parenthood fable, and a perilous odyssey through a New York City you didn't know existed. I've mentioned here lately how annoying first looks can be, often consisting of just one image that tells you nothing. Yeah, I kind of feel like the one for The Changeling is how first looks should be. Poster art plus a few images that show enough to make you think you know what's happening, with just enough mystery to make you wonder. Or maybe that's just the nature of this show. Lakeith Stanfield headlines along with Clark Bacco. The first 3 episodes hit Apple TV Plus on Friday, the 8th of September. Subsequent episodes will run 1 per week through the series finale on Friday, the 13th of October. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Issue. Get 50% off an annual premium account with code MacOSKen at ISSUU issue.com/ podcast. This show is also sponsored by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code MacOSCan50 at factormeals.com/MacOSCan50 for 50% off. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.